My name is Ron Clough. I am with Manufacturing Works, and I am going to introduce our presenter this morning. Our presenter is Ernest Miller. He is the managing partner at Optio Tempur. They are a support member of Manufacturing Works. He's been active for 30 some years with assisting companies in solving and helping solve their supply chain strategies and operational improvement initiatives. A little bit about his background is that he's led some major operations improvement initiatives for NCR, Workflow One, Ford, and Sunoco, to name at least some of the companies. He's helped implement many of these process improvements in North America, in Europe, and Asia, and he's had some long-term assignments in the UK, France, Germany, Hungary, India, and Japan, which really sounds like really exciting places to be at. Prior to forming Optio Tempur, Ernie had served with McKinsey in the operations excellence practice for over 5 years. And prior to that, he was with Ernst & Young Consulting for 10 years, leading a similar practice in operational excellence. So today and this morning, I'd like to introduce to everyone Ernest Miller of Optio Tempur. Over to you, Ernie.
Yeah, thank you, Ron. Thanks for those kind words, and good morning. Very glad to be with you today. Share some comments on work I've done over my career helping companies design and implement key performance indicators. I want to thank Manufacturing Works for this opportunity to speak with you and talk about this topic. You know, Yogi Berra said, "It's tough to make predictions, especially about the future." And I don't think Yogi was ever more right than our 2020 experience has demonstrated. These past 5 months were very different than anyone was expecting. I believe we all are hoping to get this virus behind us and return, if not to normal, to at least a new normal that includes public activities and robust business growth. I know I am. And as we choose key metrics, we do want them to be robust in accommodating different business scenarios and conditions. As we've experienced, things can change quickly and quite dramatically. My colleague, Alan Terachuk, who's going to help with some of the breakouts at the end of this session, and I have been working together for 25 years helping manufacturing companies achieve operations excellence, as Ron was indicating. And we have found that key performance indicators can be a very powerful tool in driving operations excellence and business success. And with that, we'll dig into the material. Thank you. And first of all, in terms of why KPIs are important, you know, they, as I just mentioned, we really feel like if they're done properly, they can really help drive business success through 3 key elements, or for 3 key reasons. You know, first of all, very effective in aligning the organization to the business objectives. If they're designed properly and you have a few, not a cast of thousands, but a few key performance indicators, it can really focus the organization on things you're trying to achieve. Secondly, they can strengthen employee morale just from the standpoint of having a good and common understanding of what the organization's trying to do. And particularly if you see some progress towards those goals, that can be a very positive driver for employee morale. And then third, it really improves, if they're designed properly, it improves the reaction speed to issues. And just backing up for a second on, you know, what we mean by KPIs, key performance indicators, are those few critical measures which, if met, mean the business will succeed. That they're different for different businesses, and we'll talk more about that. I have an example here of a company I worked with just a few years ago. It's a printing company, and they're in a very changing industry where the the needs for print are changing because of digital technology, and the equipment and methodology for printing was changing from lithographic printing, which dominated for 50 years, to more digital printing. But anyway, this company had a number of issues, but one of the big problems was that they was with their metrics which really were designed to emphasize revenue and growth, kind of a philosophy of any sale is a good sale, and was really leading the company to chasing a lot of bad business. And one of the things that we did was change that focus to gross profit and utilization, where a profitable sale is a good sale. And it made a huge difference in the company from two dimensions. One, the utilization target caused a reevaluation of facilities and equipment, and we rationalized the facilities and the equipment onto the best and most profitable business. And the emphasis on gross profit really focused the company on those customers and those types of businesses that really fit their capabilities. We even canceled a few contracts, pretty large contracts, but they weren't profitable, even on a variable cost basis. When you really analyzed the numbers, these contracts weren't profitable. So that by canceling, we actually improved EBITDA just by even canceling some contracts. So over a short period of time, we moved EBITDA from 6% on sales to 10% on sales. And that was there were a combination of actions, but one of the key things was getting the organization focused on profitable business and how to deliver that profitable business. So next slide. Thanks. So in thinking about these three key attributes of KPIs and how they can help drive business success, the first one we talked about was aligning workers to key company objectives. And we had a client where it was auto assembly, actually. And you see that picture of the automobiles. And this was a plant that was very focused on daily volume rather than quality. And this was really a horror story, this particular plant. And they had a total mentality of keep the line running. The metric they tracked was cars produced per day, not shippable cars, not cars you could put on a truck or a train to send to a dealer, but just cars off the end of the line and into a massive repair area. They were producing about 730 cars per day, and they had 10,000 cars in their repair hole, in the repair lot, versus a best in class for North American automotive manufacturing would be about 60. 60 would be a good number. And they had 10,000. When we looked at their first time quality in this assembly plant, they were below 20%. In actuality, for the 3 days that we fully monitored every car coming off the end of the line, we never saw a car that was 100% good. We never saw a single car that could go straight to a delivery truck after test in the 3 days that we monitored. And furthermore, when you have dysfunctional processes underway in a plant, oftentimes you build band-aids and you build workarounds to accommodate poor performance. And they had done that. They had developed what they called a cone system. Each worker in his station had a stack of little orange cones, like traffic cones, but these were short ones, and they had their station number written on it. And if they didn't get all their parts on the car, they'd throw a cone. They actually called it throwing a cone on the car, so that in the repair station at the end of the line, they would know what to look for, what probably didn't get done on that particular vehicle. We changed the emphasis in this plant to first time quality and build station integrity, where each worker was focused on getting all the parts on the car, getting them in correctly. They had never used that measure, and within 6 months, we had them to 80% first-time quality, while reducing 20% of the workforce. Of course, a lot of those people were the repair workers. Once we were building quality cars, you didn't need all the repair workers. And within 1 year, that plant went from lowest productivity in North America to the top quartile. And it really was about getting the organization, and starting from the line worker up to the plant manager, focused on these key metrics around first-time quality and build station quality. So the second thing is talking about improving reaction speed to issues. And here we had a plant that was a plastic packaging plant, and they had a very wide mix of bottles that they made. They had blow molding, and they had injection molding, and they made very wide variety of sizes, from 2-gallon Clorox bottles down to very small lubrication bottles and specialty bottles. And this plant it was unprofitable despite running some of their highest volumes that they in their recent history. And they were certain that the low volume product was driving poor performance because there were a lot of changeovers and disruption with running small products and small numbers. And they were convinced that that was eroding their operational efficiency. And so they weren't getting the benefit out of their higher volume P&G product lines like Clorox bottles and some of these other consumer goods products. But the problem was that their standard costing system rewarded and measured running the machines at rated speed, but didn't capture the total cost of handling and moving work in process. And it didn't compare the machine performance, didn't compare to the true production cost, and it didn't compare to the sale price. When we actually were able to track true production costs for these products and compare to the purchase price to calculate a very good estimate of gross margin, it was actually the high volume products that were the least profitable. And had they thrifted their low volume products out of that plant, they actually would have even further destroyed their profitability. The other thing that it illustrated, and this is how I talk about this reaction speed, the issues that they were really chasing the wrong issues, is that it showed that when you looked at the total cost, that you could slow down the blow molding machines, connect them more directly with the decorating machines, and eliminate a huge amount of handling that was going on in the plant. So that when looking at total cost and gross profit by product, you could actually slow down the blow molding machines. And this was very shocking to them, the idea that we would slow down these blow molding machines so that they would be in sync with the decorating machines, and you could feed the bottles right into the decorating machine straight from the blow molders. And doing that reduced their costs dramatically. Again, even though we were slowing down the blow molding machines, and within a year they were profitable, and they actually were able to get price increases from P&G based on the analysis that we had done, showing how low the costs were on those bottles. So the KPIs, getting the KPIs right, helped them respond to the right issues in terms of looking at their handling costs and not just their machine costs. So the third thing was talking about improving morale. And in this case, it was, again, a printing plant. And this plant was very focused, it was down in Columbus, very focused on internal efficiency numbers rather than customer responsiveness on quality. plant did a lot of marketing, printing, and print and mail work. Changed the metrics focus to we changed the metrics focus to perfect orders, right quantity to specifications with 0 defects, delivered on time, kind of right quantity, right quality, right time, right place, right packaging, right labeling. And the focus changed to tracking the number of non-perfect orders, not just percentage shipped on time. And we created reason codes for every non-perfect order. Pareto analysis was performed to determine the most frequent types of problems, and root cause analysis was driven on the highest categories of problems. Within 9 months, the plant went from lowest customer satisfaction to highest, and the plant went from profitable to non-profitable. There's a lot of cost generated when customers are not satisfied. Many issues had to do with fairly simple things, but it was sweating the details on customer required packaging, labeling, ensuring correct quantities. And as they made these improvements, the point is that the morale at the facility totally changed. And the morale at the facility totally changed as they gained confidence due to improved performance and success with customers. You know, it's no fun to be constantly scrambling and responding to customer complaints rather than surprising and delighting customers with service they didn't expect. Of course, the improved morale only reinforced the improved operational performance and the facility's success. So getting the metrics aligned right so that they were focused on the customer and delivering better service really turned the facility around, not only in terms of their performance, but in terms of their morale, which only reinforced and drove even higher performance. So I think those are some of the impacts that these KPI, and why they can have such a strong impact on the business. Next slide. So now we thought we would do a survey, and I want you to know that there's no names or company names associated with these answers. So you can be hopefully perfectly candid. There'll be no embarrassing publicity or associated with individuals or with companies. But the question is, what's your biggest challenge your business is facing right now? Is it growing sales? Is it improving productivity? Finding workers? I know, 5 months ago, finding workers was universally the number one problem a lot of manufacturing companies were facing. It's not quite, as dramatic today, but it will return, and it has its own problems. But go ahead and answer the survey if you would, and we'll give you a couple minutes to do that. And Ann, can you tell me when we have a good display of answers?
I think we have gotten answers from everybody except for you and me, so I'm going to go ahead and.
Oh, okay. Oh, so yeah, gross sales #1. There we go. How about that? And then second would be finding workers even today, and now part of it is people willing to go into the plant because of the continued virus problems. And then it's a scattering of the others. So we have a lot of domination on growing sales, and then scattered. But one of the things this shows. Okay, so should I just? No, I can't close it. Yeah, okay. One of the things it shows is that even though there's a heavy dominance in the group on growing sales, there's a scattering of different #1 problems for different businesses, and that's the point of this question. So we can go on to the next slide. Is that these KPIs need to be back one. Is that these KPIs need to be carefully chosen, and you want to avoid some common pitfalls. And first of all is that you want them to fit your business and your objectives, okay? And we'll talk through a framework for doing that in the next few slides. But secondly, you also want to be careful in choosing these KPIs because you will get what you measure. Especially if you have any high-powered incentives attached to these KPIs, bonuses or performance evaluations. people will really, react to them and make decisions, and they will have an impact on your organization and how they perform. Third, you want to use them consistently. If you throw out these KPIs and then you ignore them, or you make decisions contrary to the KPIs, then you'll sow a lot of confusion into the organization, but also they'll tend to ignore them also if they think they're not actually the right guideposts for their decisions. And then fourth, with KPIs, you really want to focus on directionality and stability is most important, not perfect accuracy. You don't want to argue about the numbers. You really want to worry about the trends and the direction you're going. So in terms of an example on this, alignment, and you'll get what you measure. This was an ATM manufacturing plant, and they were very focused on measuring fidelity to ship date. But the problem was that they would build in time and adjust the ship date for any problems in manufacturing, so that while they had a very high ship percent, 99% ship date fidelity to their metric, their customer satisfaction was very low, because their actual shipment date in regard to the customer request date was actually very low. And so one of the things that we did there was change that metric to customer request date, and to a more of a perfect order tracking, and got the organization more focused on that. And we did make some changes to the production process as well, so that we could have quicker response time and meet more customer ship dates. But that drove dramatic improvement in customer satisfaction, and in shipping to the customer ship date, as opposed to the manufacturing plant's desired date, or what they ended up performing to, and that had a dramatic impact on customer satisfaction. This second example, in terms of if you ignore the KPIs, this was at the same plant, and the problem here was that we really wanted the plant focused on high quality and productivity, and the best way to do that was to start units when you had 100%. This was an assembly operation, assembly and test, and you really had the best quality and efficiency, productivity, if you waited to start a unit until you had all of the parts that you needed to build it. It only took about 3 hours from the time you actually slotted in the beginning of the ATM till it was all assembled, and then it took another 3 to 6 hours to test the unit, depending on how many were in the whip. And so there was no reason to start a unit early, because within 8 hours you could have the unit complete and test if you had all the parts. But there was a lot of tendency historically for people to start units and then partially build them and then finish them later when the rest of the parts came in. And that was a very destructive process. And so even once we changed the metrics and we changed the process, so you didn't need to start units early, there was a tendency for executives in the company to pressure the plant manager and the workers to start units early, and then they would clog up the factory with units that couldn't be finished. They couldn't be tested, they couldn't be finished, they didn't have all their parts. And so it's important to stay aligned with those KPIs. Eventually we got that fixed, and they got dramatic improvement, but but that was a hard thing for them to work through. The next one is this, in terms of directional stability. I had one client where the managers were very much arguing about the content and scope of the comparative benchmark assembly plants, even though their plant was 50% less productive than the leading plants. And that was a very unproductive exercise in trying to determine the comparative plants content and what the why their number was so much more productive, when in fact the real problems were in plant operations. And it was better to focus on, well, how do we move our number in their direction? And there were plenty of opportunities to do that. So okay, so choosing them carefully. Now we'll talk about how to choose the most effective metrics. First of all, you want to start with what are the critical drivers of success from a customer's point of view? What do the customers care about? That's always the right place to start. That's what we want to understand. That's what will have the most impact on the business. So the KPIs must accurately measure your progress towards these critical company goals aimed at driving customer needs. Second, less is more. Choose somewhere between 4 and 6 KPIs. Now, you might be measuring a lot more things, right, from a monitoring standpoint, but what you're focused on, that you're trying to drive improvement on, is these 4 to 6 KPIs that you've identified as critical to driving your business. And then the third, consider your company stage of growth. What's important to the importance of these certain metrics will shift as your company's priorities evolve, whether it's growth, whether it's new markets you're entering, whether it's trying to attract new customers from all those growth opportunities. And then identify both leading and lagging performance indicators. It's important to understand both results from past action and progress towards your future goals. And you see in the little blowout there, the difference between leading indicators and lagging indicators. Leading indicators are those metrics that if you perform well on them, they will drive improved performance in some of your lagging and overall business performance over time. So if you think about perfect order, getting that right and getting steady improvement in that will tend to drive customer satisfaction, but it might take a longer time. Customer satisfaction is more of a lagging indicator, whereas as you're doing better and better on perfect orders, an accumulation over time will start to move the needle on customer satisfaction. First time quality is like that as well. As you improve first time quality, it might take a while for that to show up in the gross profits and the other lagging indicators. Sales calls per rep per day, being proactive in your sales efforts. Well, that's a leading indicator, and that might not show up in sales growth. And it might take a while for that to show up in the sales growth, which tends to be a lagging indicator. So that's leading and lagging indicators, and you like to have some of both. It's good to look at reference industry KPIs because you like to know how you're doing in your industry. It might show you how you're doing competitively with key competitors. But critical KPIs, most important, should be relevant for your specific situation and company and what your goals are. Okay, next slide. So how to determine what is most critical to the business success. We have this 5-step process we like to go through. First of all, rank order these customer needs or desires. And obviously there may be different opinions of different people in your company in terms of what these are. It's also good to look at people, sometimes good to do some actual survey work with your customers. Maybe what you assume or what you think your customers want isn't entirely incorporating all the information that you might want from your customers. It's good to ask them direct and get the most recent information. Their needs may be changing over time. Also, it's good to try and get information from people who aren't doing business with you or aren't doing as much as you would like. and what's keeping them away, trying to find out what are their, particularly if there are people that are in your addressable market, what are the things that they need and want that you're not supplying, that might create opportunities for you to grow and add customers. Second thing is then identify those critical business imperatives that we talked about. Third, rank business processes by their impact on those customer and business goals. So which are the processes that will drive the most impact on those business needs and on the customer needs? And then fourth, define the KPIs for those key processes which have the most impact on the customer requirements of business. And we recommend using this SMART framework. We'll do that in the next slide, but this is a framework for defining these KPIs. And this is many of you have probably used this and seen this. It's been around for a long time. It's very robust. I've used it with a lot of companies, but it's this SMART acronym for KPIs is that they need to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. That's the SMART acronym. And we've developed this series of questions around each one of those dimensions to try and help define, okay, is this metric specific? Is it measurable? Is it attainable? So in terms of specific, clarity is critical. What are we trying to achieve? Can we answer the who, what, where, and why? What is success, right, on this KPI? Measurable. Can progress be measured and tracked? Is the needed data attainable easily? Is the calculation defined so that everybody's in agreement on how it's being calculated? Is it attainable? Do you have the needed skills? Do you have the needed equipment? Are there obstacles beyond the control of the person that's being measured or the organization that's being measured on this particular KPI? And then is it relevant? This is what we spend a lot of time talking about. Is it relevant to the goal that you have targeted? And then finally, is it time-based? Is there a date certain, a target date when you want to reach this certain level of performance? And what are the milestones for progress towards that date certain attainment? Had a client that we developed, I would say, a really great set of metrics for. They were very focused around lean principles, Toyota production system type lean principles, and had a great opportunity to drive improvement for the client because they weren't using those principles at that time, and they implemented them, and it did drive improvement. But the one thing that they would not do is they wouldn't make them time-based. They wouldn't set a date certain to say, oh, this plant and this process needs to be at the level of the competition by, whether it's through a model change or it's through 2 years or 4 years. I mean, some of these might, if you're really trying to move the needle in terms of overall productivity, it might take some time. It may take a number of initiatives, but that hindered their progress. While they did make progress, the competition is making progress too. And if you're behind and you're not improving faster than they are, well, then you don't really close the gap. And that was this company's problem. And so while they made progress, these were good improvements, the metrics aligned the organization, we got many of the benefits we're talking about, it wasn't as fast as it needed to be. And one of the main reasons that it wasn't as fast as it needed to be was their reluctance to really set hard time-based objectives for the KPIs that they chose. So next slide. So this is a framework. It's an Excel spreadsheet. We'll send that out to you after the presentation, but it has those questions that we just showed, and it's an Excel spreadsheet, so you can use it to build your KPIs. Now, one other thing is that we've been talking a lot about KPIs at the level of the company and the overall organization or plant. But KPIs can be broken down further to different functional areas and even down to the worker level. So if you, this is not from a specific company, this is a more general example, but if you thought about a manufacturing company with a strategy to build brand and grow through superior value and superior service, here's 5 KPIs that they might choose that would be aligned with that strategy. Customer satisfaction, percent of customers extremely satisfied, order to delivery success, percent of perfect orders, growth from new customers, percent of business from new customers, order lead time, percent of orders meeting customer request date, price premium. Are you, if you're really, your strategy is superior value, then you should be enjoying a price premium that reflects that. And is that really true? So if you think about that at the company level, then if you took order to delivery, you can break that down at the operations level to say, oh, well, we should have a KPI for the operations people on quality, on-time delivery, order entry quality, schedule adherence. If we move the needle on these things, those will drive order to delivery success. And a KPI around each one of those. And then if you wanted to further break it down, if you thought about quality, we can break that down for KPIs for the worker. Standard work audits. Do workers know the standard work and do they execute it, right? Is the tooling quality, are the PMs complete so that the tooling quality is high? Absenteeism can be very important to driving quality, and that's in the control of the worker. Machine maintenance, are the operator PMs complete? So those are kinds of things that might be very specific to a worker or to a particular line or cell, and that would drive quality, and that quality contributes to order to delivery success. So that's how you can cascade these KPIs from the company level to the operation, plant, or line, and on down to the worker. And each one of those can do that. So here's an actual example from a client I worked with a couple years ago. These are actually their slides. I won't identify the company, but there's only a few things that have been changed in here in terms to hide, protect the innocent and the guilty. So next slide. So this was their vision. They wanted to be a recognized leading company based on customer service excellence, outstanding employee satisfaction, and they wanted a maximum return to shareholders. That was their vision. And they thought they could get there through focus on happy customers, happy employees, right item, right time, and 100% quality. And that would drive market share for them in their business. So next slide. They wanted to develop KPIs that would support that vision around each one of those themes. And, this is a famous quote from Peter Drucker: if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. And he said that a long time ago. It remains totally true, and it's a good thing to think about. But in terms of the characteristics that we laid out with them on effective KPIs, it was linked to key business objectives. I guess you've already heard that in this talk. Leading and versus lagging, output versus outcome, clearly defined, consistently calculated, accurately measured, challenging but achievable, cascaded down to all levels of the organization with clear ownership. So those were some of the themes that they put into their KPI development. And then in that theme of cascading, so if you thought about at the executive level, market share was a goal for the plant manager. That meant customer satisfaction measured by customer complaints. Down at the supervisor or value stream level, it meant looking at quality production. And they had a particular, ACRU was a tool they used to measure quality on the product. And then down at the line managers, it was a standard work adherence and standard work certification. And then obviously those feed back up into the executive success. So you break down the metrics. And again, this is right from the work we did with this client. And then the performance feeds back up. If these line managers hit their targets, then it drives up to the supervisor, to the plant manager, and up to the executive to drive market share. And they did have good results out of these cascaded metrics. So survey question. Again, no attribution to the individual or to the company. But what's your biggest challenge in determining or using your KPIs? Do you think lack of clear business strategy, or too many competing initiatives, flavor of the week problems, lack of critical data, disagreements, or lack of understanding? So we'll give you a moment to answer those questions. And Ann, you tell me when we're good to go.
Will do. We're about halfway there now.
Okay.
Come on, 2 more people.
Hard to decide.
All right.
You only get to pick one, so that's always hard.
Here you go.
Okay. Interesting. Lack of critical data, number one. And that can be a big issue. Too many competing objectives. There's you know, a lot of, I would say there's a pretty good distribution of reasons here in terms of what are some of the concerns and issues. Yeah, good. Okay. Yeah, okay. So then wrapping up here, what we've provided here is, this is from Mesa, a study they did not too long ago, called Metrics That Matter to Manufacturing. And these are, I've used these a lot. These are a pretty good starting point to thinking about some of the metrics that are most popular around different objectives, right? Improving customer experience and responsiveness, you know, on-time delivery to commit, which we've talked a lot about in some of those examples. It's a very, and this is, these metrics were developed by surveying manufacturing companies and identifying what was most popular in terms of what companies are using in trying to drive improvement on these different dimensions. So improving customer experience and responsiveness was at on-time delivery to commit, manufacturing cycle time, time to make changeovers. Obviously, you're more flexible. You have a much greater opportunity and capability to respond to customer needs and be aligned with your customer needs. Improving quality. This yield measure really is that first-time quality measure that I talked about in some of those examples. When you look at the definition they use here for yield. Customer rejects, return material authorization returns. What got to your customer that, you know, there's kind of this first measure is about how are you doing inside the plant, and the second measure is about did anything get past you and get to the customer that actually was not 100% quality. And then suppliers incoming quality is the other side of that in terms of driving improved quality. So next slide. And then on improving efficiency, throughput, capacity utilization, OEE, in terms of overall equipment effectiveness, which I imagine many of you are using, but you know, it looks at both quality output and the rate at which the machine is running, and then what percentage of time is the line or the machine up. And then schedule or production attainment. I really think this is a great one. I see problem plants tend to have a lot of difficulty with schedule adherence. If you have a lot of expediting going on and you're scrambling your schedules, that is generally a problem for productivity and efficiency and quality. So schedule attainment, we lay a schedule down, we execute it. And then we go on to the next order, and that creates a happy plant. Reducing inventory is really looking at inventory whips and turns. Let's see, next one. And then, looking at compliance, both from a safety standpoint. If you're driving safety incidents down, that is generally good for productivity and cost. Also, environmental can be an issue, and then other non-compliance events. Maintenance, planned maintenance versus emergency maintenance is very popular, and then downtime, which also feeds into that OEE number. Okay. Yep. Flexibility and innovation, rate of new product introduction. Another good one on that is in terms of new customers, like what percentage your business you're doing with new customers. But engineering change order cycle time, how fast and effectively can you process order cycle time? And one thing that we looked at, we introduced into NCR was effectiveness of new product launch, how fast we could launch a new product. Yeah. And then reducing costs and increasing profitability. There's really a lot of different measures here. There's actually 4 more on the next page, but total manufacturing cost per unit. This is, your conversion costs, very good for looking at productivity improvement. Manufacturing cost as a percentage of revenue, net operating profit, productivity in revenue per employee is very good. Use it a lot. Average unit contribution margin, return on assets, return on net assets. These are all very popular and can be very effective. Next. Energy cost per unit, particularly if that's a big element. I had a client, it was a glass bottle manufacturer, and that was a huge part of their cost structure was energy, because one of the main costs was heating up the sand and to make the melt, and that was a huge portion of their cost structure. Cash to cash cycle time, EBITDA, and customer fill rate, on time delivery, perfect order percentage, all good metrics. So these are some of the most popular metrics in use across manufacturing plants, and frankly, I've used a lot of these with our client base. And with that, that's really the prepared remarks that I had. We made the time limit, and obviously we're anxious to help anybody that has interest in needing assistance with this. But at this time, we can answer those questions. Ron, did we get many questions?
Well, I'm going to jump right in, and we do have a couple, and I have one. But
Okay.
One of them was just on the presentation that we had some people asking whether or not they can get a hold of the presentation.
Yeah.
And maybe if we can do that, maybe the best way to do it is if you guys all could send a note to Ann or directly.
Ron, I'll send out a message afterwards that has the link.
Oh, very good.
And I can include the Excel that Ernie said that we could share, and the PDF of the slides.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
We do want to have a breakout session here real quick, but I do have another question. Do you have any suggestions or best practices on how to communicate metrics to plant workers and to promote ownership and or accountability on the front line?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what we've seen be very effective is these job boards in the work cell or work area where you have team meeting at the beginning of the shift, and you go over your metrics and talk about the initiatives that you're doing to drive them. They can be very quick meetings, but you got to, if you're going to have boards in the different areas, you want to make sure you keep them up to date. The other way you can do it with with video displays now, because those are much cheaper than they used to be. And you can also use those to flash some other messages, used both ways. Obviously, we've done more of the, kind of whiteboard with some printouts, either put them on with magnets, something like that. But to track the metrics and the progress on those. But we have seen the videos work too, and there's some efficiency in that. You get the slides made and you have the tracks, and it displays. You don't have all the paper and the posting and all that. But you have to have a display monitor there for the team. Is that?
Thank you for that. And we did have one participant that said there are a couple books they brought out. If you're monitoring the chat, one of them is Drive by Daniel Pink in this area, and Bringing Out the Best in People by Aubrey Daniels. And again, it's always good to be able to have another resource to go back to reference and to provide some additional clarity. At this time, I know we're going to be pressed, but we've got about 7 minutes. But what I would like to do, and maybe we can get one of these in, do one breakout, give Ann a minute to